Dear listeners, tonight's tale is not for the faint of heart. Some houses are more than just bricks and wood. Some houses remember, and some refuse to let go. Tonight, we take you to Maple Street, where a long-abandoned Victorian mansion stands, waiting. Waiting for the curious. The brave. The ones who don't believe in ghosts, until it's too late. So settle in, turn down the lights, and listen closely. Because in this house, something is always listening back. The van rolled to a stop in front of the house, its headlights cutting through the dense fog that clung to Maple Street. The Victorian mansion loomed ahead, its once grand facade now weathered and broken, the windows dark and empty like hollow eyes watching their arrival. The iron gate groaned as Ethan, the team's lead investigator, pushed it open, sending a chill down his spine that had nothing to do with the night air. "This is it," he murmured, gripping his flashlight tighter. "The infamous house that whispers." Behind him, the rest of the team, Harper, the tech expert, Jake, the skeptic, and Lila, the sensitive, unloaded their equipment. The night was eerily silent except for the occasional rustling of dead leaves skittering across the pavement. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath as they approached the house. The wooden porch creaked under their weight as they stepped onto it. A shiver ran through Lila. "It's watching us," she whispered, glancing at the dark windows above. Jake scoffed. "It's an empty house, Lila. Wood settles, air moves through cracks, it's all explainable." Ethan ignored their exchange and pushed open the heavy front door. It groaned in protest, revealing a vast entryway coated in dust. A grand staircase stretched up into the darkness, and faded wallpaper peeled from the walls like withering skin. Harper set up the cameras, their blinking red lights casting eerie glows in the dim interior. "Let's start with an EVP session," she suggested, pulling out a voice recorder. The team gathered in the parlor, the air thick with age and something unseen. Ethan cleared his throat. "If anyone is here with us, can you give us a sign?" Silence. Then, the floorboards creaked, not from their movement, but from something unseen. The air grew dense, heavy, charged with energy. And then, a whisper, soft, chilling, directly behind them. "Leave." A heavy silence fell over the group. The whisper had been unmistakable, a voice not their own, spoken in the deep stillness of the house. Harper's hand trembled slightly as she checked the EVP recorder. The small screen flickered, the waveform erratic. "There's definitely something here," she murmured, glancing at Ethan. Ethan exhaled, steadying himself. "We keep going. Let's explore the upstairs." Jake rolled his eyes but followed as they moved toward the grand staircase. Each step groaned under their weight, the sound swallowed quickly by the oppressive air. At the top, the corridor stretched into darkness, lined with doors on either side. Lila hesitated, staring down the hallway. "Something's waiting." Ethan ignored her and gestured for Harper to keep recording. They moved cautiously, opening doors to reveal abandoned bedrooms, their furniture draped in white sheets, dust thick in the air. But one door at the very end stood out. It was different. Heavy, made of dark oak, with an iron keyhole that gleamed in the dim light. Ethan reached for the handle. It didn't budge. "It's locked," he said, shaking it. "Strange," Every other door was open. Lila's breath hitched. We shouldn't open it. Why? Because your senses tell you not to. Jake mocked. Before Lila could respond, a deep thud came from behind the locked door. The group froze. Another thud, followed by the unmistakable sound of fingernails scraping against wood. Harper raised the camera, her voice barely above a whisper. We need to get this on film. Ethan knelt, peering through the keyhole. Darkness greeted him. Then, movement. A shadow shifted inside the room, slow and deliberate. And then, a single pale eye filled the keyhole, staring back at him. Ethan stumbled backward, his heart hammering. There's someone in there. Jake scoffed, but even he looked uneasy. Impossible. This place has been abandoned for decades. A low creak echoed down the hallway. The team turned just in time to see the other doors slowly closing, one by one, as if unseen hands were pushing them shut. Harper gripped Ethan's arm. We need to leave. Now. Then, the locked door rattled violently, shaking on its hinges. A deep, guttural voice growled from within. Don't open the door. Chapter 3, The Seance. Ethan's breath came fast and shallow. His mind raced. That eye. That voice. It had been real. Too real. But they had come here for answers, and leaving now would mean turning their backs on the truth. No one's leaving, he finally said, his voice steady despite the chill racing down his spine. We came to document paranormal activity. We just got proof. Lila shuddered. That wasn't proof, Ethan. That was a warning. Harper swallowed hard and adjusted her camera. What if we hold a seance? Maybe we can communicate with whatever's here. Jake laughed nervously. Great idea. Summon the thing that told us to leave. But Ethan nodded. We need to know what we're dealing with. They gathered in the grand parlor, where an old wooden table stood untouched by time. Harper placed a few candles on the surface, their flickering flames casting strange shadows. Lila hesitated before joining, her hands trembling as she placed them on the table. Spirits of this house, Ethan began, his voice firm but respectful, we mean no harm. We seek only to understand. If you are here, give us a sign. For a long moment, nothing happened. The air was thick with expectation. Then, the temperature plummeted. Breath misted in the air. A low creak echoed from the walls, the sound of something unseen moving closer. The candle flames flickered wildly before extinguishing, plunging them into darkness. Lila gasped. Something's here. Then, from the locked room above, a sound rang out, long and drawn out, a tortured wail that echoed through the house. It was a sound of agony, of something that had suffered far too long. The planchette on the Ouija board Harper had set down moved on its own, spelling out a single word, trapped. A deafening silence filled the room, thick as the darkness pressing in around them. The flickering candlelight had long since died, and the air had turned frigid, making every breath feel heavy and damp. The word trapped burned in their minds, etched into the very fabric of the house's presence. Ethan's fingers curled into a fist. We're leaving. Now. No one argued. The warning had been clear. But as they hurried to the grand entryway, a cold gust of air swept past them, slamming every door in the corridor shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot through the empty mansion. Harper let out a sharp breath and yanked at the front door's handle. It didn't budge. "It's locked," she whispered, her voice trembling. She pulled harder. Nothing. Jake threw his shoulder against it. The door didn't so much as rattle. The house wasn't letting them leave. From behind them, the shadows stretched unnaturally long, twisting and slithering along the walls like living tendrils. A whispering chorus rose, unintelligible yet filled with unmistakable malice. Lila pressed herself against Ethan, her breath shallow. "It's waking up." The house groaned around them, the walls seeming to pulse as if breathing. Footsteps echoed from the staircase. Slow. Deliberate. Coming down toward them. "No," Ethan muttered, his voice barely audible over the pounding of his own heart. He turned to see a figure emerge from the shadows above, a tall, gaunt shape, its eyes empty voids, its mouth twisted in a silent scream. Harper let out a strangled cry as it stepped forward, each movement a jerky, unnatural lurch. The walls trembled, dust raining down from the ceiling as the house exhaled a deep, guttural growl. Jake turned and ran toward the hallway, but the shadows reacted instantly, curling around his ankles like grasping fingers. He let out a panicked yell as they yanked him backward. The darkness swallowed him whole. "Jake!" Ethan lunged after him, but his hands met only cold, empty air. Jake was gone. Lila sobbed, clutching her arms. "It's taking us." Another shriek split the air. Harper. The shadows had wrapped around her, dragging her toward the staircase. Her fingers clawed at the floorboards, leaving streaks of blood as she struggled. "Help me." Ethan lunged, grabbing her hand, but the force was too strong. In an instant, Harper was gone, pulled into the abyss of the house. The whispering grew louder, an overwhelming cacophony. One left. Lila turned to Ethan, tears streaming down her face. "Don't let it take me." Ethan grabbed her hand and yanked with all his strength, pulling her toward the front door. "We'll get out," he swore. "We have to." But the house had other plans. A violent force threw Ethan backward, sending him crashing into the dusty floor. Dazed, he looked up just in time to see the shadows coil around Lila. She let out a final, choked gasp before she, too, was swallowed by the darkness. Then, silence. The house stood still. Waiting. Ethan forced himself up, his entire body trembling. He was alone. The whispering returned, soft now, almost mocking. "You stayed too long." He ran. Not to the front door, it was useless, but toward the windows. He grabbed a chair, heaving it with all his strength. The glass shattered, but there was no outside. Only darkness. An endless void stretched beyond the frame, swallowing the shards before they hit the ground. The house had no exits. It never did. Something brushed against his ear, an icy breath that sent terror racing through his veins. "You belong to us now." Ethan screamed as the darkness lunged for him. Morning broke over Maple Street. The mist had lifted, and the air was eerily still. The Victorian mansion stood as it always had, silent, waiting. A realtor's sign swayed gently in the breeze, the words barely legible beneath the layers of dust and decay, "For sale." Another van rolled to a stop in front of the house. A new team of investigators stepped out, cameras in hand, excitement shining in their eyes. They didn't hear the whispers. Not yet.